Today I'm joined with Antonia Taylor. Antonia runs her own PR company and she also hosts some events, which is what I'm going to be chatting with her about today. Antonia, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So, give us a bit of an intro to yourself and your business.
So I run my own small PR agency. I help small businesses, small, fast growth, ambitious businesses on the B2B side. And about a year ago, I sort of launched my own events offering as well. I don't know about you, but I think increasingly, in the age of social media, people want to get out from behind their laptop. I've seen a real rise in interest in terms of conferences, events, educational events. It's not just about the networking with a warm glass of white wine and some horrible nibbles and no one in the room that's not a man under 50. I think people are really working hard to find their tribe, and if they can't find them, they're thinking, I'm going to find a place that's going to bring my tribe to me.
Yeah, you're so right. There's something so special about getting out there and meeting people, because so many of us are working from home now as well. And you're in your kitchen, and you're sat there at the table and you're working all day. And I know some days I can go a whole day without actually physically speaking to anyone, which is not healthy. Like, it's so nice to be out there and to be meeting other people.
Yeah, and like you said, I think with the rise of I think you're absolutely right. I think the gig economy has had something to do with it. And I think people actually realise that they have to get out there and they have to be part of a community, and they have to find those people they want to collaborate with. I don't even think it's a huge sales thing a lot of the time. I think certainly people like you and me wouldn't be drawn to those sort of events anyway.
No.
So there's a huge opportunity to create a nice offering from that perspective.
Absolutely. So tell us more about the kind of events that you run. How do they work?
So I run a number of events for clients. I tend to look after the editorial side. I think that's where there's a lot of interest in terms of bringing together, say, a group of interesting speakers, people that can raise awareness on a subject or educate. I think there's so much about education that people are really hungry for. One of the big events that I run is I run the Glug Reading chapter with one of my clients, Connect TVT, and our intention there was very much to re-energise and create a home for the community, for the local creative community in Reading and the Thames Valley. We really wanted to do that. We didn't necessarily want to reinvent the wheel, and we were aware of Glug, which is a global creative community events program. It's from everywhere, from Sydney to New York to LA. There's a Glug chapter. It's really growing in the UK as well. There's London, Manchester, Leeds, Brighton, wherever there's a creative hub. And so we thought, next stop, Reading.
Yeah. Fantastic. And so how did that kind of start? Did you reach out to kind of Glug HQ?
Yeah. We reached out to them, and might have had a bit of an in there as well. But, that's what business is about.
Exactly.
And the guys were really receptive. They really saw a need for it as well. And of course, we could bring value to their brand as well. So it becomes a mutually beneficial partnership. At the time, Glug was also running for free, so one of the challenges for us was how to make it cost effective. So we really looked at sponsorship and worked really hard to find a group of like-minded, well-placed sponsors to support us. So we reached out to a number of sort of fast growth creative businesses who really bought into the vision and have really invested and helped us grow the community.
That's such a good idea, re-sponsorship. I mean, was it a case of you kind of researched first, because I'm sure there's lots of women out there thinking, great, maybe I could get some sponsorship for events that I'm planning. Did you kind of think who would be a good fit and then kind of just approach
We really targeted. We really targeted who we thought would be ideal partners as well. Because I think with a partnership like that, at the end of the day, it's not about the sponsorship money. It's not about the £500 or the 1K that they're going to put in cruder terms. It's about the value of the brand association. You have to be so careful. You don't want your brand to be diluted, or the brand of the event to be diluted. And there are a lot of businesses out there that are prepared to throw the cash at you, but because they want access to your audience. But if you've worked hard to build a community that trusts you and respects you, you don't want to dilute that with a poor brand relationship. So you have to be really careful. I think it's like all things in businesses. It's about growing finding that like-minded partner but nurturing that relationship.
Yeah. And what do you think makes a wow event? So you can have a great event,
Yeah.
but what makes it a really amazing wow event?
Okay, I think people are really hung up on sort of things not going wrong and seamlessness, but actually I think, it doesn't have to be flawless. I think the content of the event is really what's important. So having inspirational speakers that really resonate with your audience, and that your audience are going to learn from, because ultimately I think people have taken time out of their evening or their morning to come there. They want to learn. They certainly want to get something out of it. I hope, beyond just trying to sell and connect with people. So I think the content is the big pull, and I think also, again, building that community, because if they are surrounded by great people, that's inspiring in itself. Often it might not be the speaker that's going to actually bring the most value, but the person that you happen to be sitting next to who has a story to tell, or who you're going to learn from, or who might become someone you collaborate with in the future. So I think it's the content, and I think it's quality of attendees. We work really hard to make sure we're not just, without wanting to be negative, people that are just going to they're just coming there to sell.
Yeah. Because that's not enjoyable for anyone, is it? And that's not what it's about.
Yeah, we've all been there. I think we've all been to those, particularly when you're starting out and you're like, oh, there's that small business networking event, I'm going to go, and someone's standing there with a megaphone telling you why you need them. Yeah. Or, even recently I was sitting at a women's networking lunch opposite a life coach who told me I had self-limiting beliefs, and you're like, if I do, I'm not working with you.
Yeah, exactly. You just talked yourself out of the deal.
Yeah, totally. So I think it's about just really finding where your tribe is going as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And what about organisation?
Yeah.
Because, hosting an event, whether it's a big event, a small event, there must be a lot that kind of goes on.
There's a lot of logistics, and there's always this couple of sleepless nights running up to the event. I think being organised and being prepared, and also being prepared to delegate. So if you have a sponsor, actually get them involved in helping you with the guest list. Get them to contribute a bit of time as well as money. So that should really factor into your decision making. I found what's worked well is that, with things like catering and some of our morning events, we have like a local coffee brand, Tamp Coffee, and they're great. They're organic, they're sustainable, they represent all my clients' values, and they never let us down. We trust them, so we know what to expect. We know how to manage them as well. So build those relationships up. Use your network, if nothing else, and also remember that events are a great platform to help other people. So for us, for another event, we use a local bakery to do our breakfasts, and it's such a great platform for them. And on the back of that, they've landed other contracts as well. So just think about how you can help people when you're curating your event team.
That's such good advice, and I know we all want to support one another, especially at League of Her Own. So any way that we can support other businesses is such a fantastic thing. And I'm going to step back a second, because you mentioned something that I'm interested about. You mentioned about finding your tribe. How do you find them? How do you find the perfect people who you want to come to your events? How do you market it? How do you draw them in?
I think you have to be clear on your values, because I think at the end of the day, that's what's going to speak to your audience. So with Glug, we had some values in place, which is all about creativity. And actually, to be fair to the guys at HQ, they're very clear. If we veer off, because we're in the Thames Valley, we tend to have like a really technical audience. They're really clear about steering us back to the intention and purpose of Glug, which is about the creative community. So being clear on that can really help. And also remember that the event is the event, but the event has a life before and after the day as well. So build those relationships with your audiences online. When you're communicating it on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, have those conversations as well. And it does get to the point where you can walk into a room and you feel like, this is where I belong, these are my people. And and equally the feeling when the opposite happens and you think, I'm just going to waste 2 hours of my life and I really want to go home.
I've been there. Yeah, I've definitely been there. Yeah, in both scenarios.
And we both know the value of Instagram, for example, and actually having those relationships in place, and like draws like at the end of the day, for example, if you said, Antonia, I really recommend that you go to this event, I completely would go, because I've got that trust, and I really trust your judgment. So it's about building those relationships. Word of mouth is huge as well. It really creates a buzz.
So true. And what about kind of collecting feedback? So when people have been to your event, do you collect any feedback, and what do you do with it?
So we have a meetup page, and we've just moved over to Eventbrite as well, where we can collate feedback. To be honest, most of the feedback is about people suggesting that they'd be great speakers.
Fantastic, getting themselves in there.
Yeah, and I think also there's that horrible thing of actually, if you're hosting an event, you have to work the room and just hang around a little bit, have a chat with people afterwards. We get a lot of feedback about things like venues, for example, and why it's worked or why it hasn't worked. So just have those conversations and tap into people. Ask for feedback. If you've got a Twitter feed, just say the next day, thank you for coming, any feedback, welcome, and then respond to it and shape it. The format of Glug Reading, where it is today to where it was, sort of a year and a half ago, it's completely different, because also we're learning every event. They're a quarterly event. We learn every time what bits to tweak, and so we can shape it to make sure it meets the attendees' expectations.
Fantastic. And have you got any kind of final words of wisdom for our female entrepreneurs out there thinking about hosting events?
I would say community. I would say absolutely build your community around your events, because just that point that we discussed earlier, that the event has a life before and after the day that it happens. So have those conversations. See the event as a way to bring everyone together, but remember that it lives and breathes beyond that. And hold on to the values and integrity of the event as well, and don't be swayed by people trying to throw money at you.
Absolutely. Antonia, thank you so much for sharing that. It's such great information about events, and best of luck with Glug.
Thank you so much for having me.